Talk about your secret origin, how you came to be and find yourself in this wild, wacky industry.
All right, so it's a many-step process. There's a lot of different things involved with that, but that's why I wanted to mention that to you guys. So first of all, you need to have a product in hand. That's the main thing, is to have something to show to people. Better than having a business card is like, here you go, I got a comic book, check it out, it's done. So what I do is I went to conventions and I would just talk to people, showing them my work. And then I would talk to other creators and get a network started. So I was already going to conventions with product, showing it to editors at conventions. And one of my friends, who was part of a community that we're in called Coffee and Comics, he said, you know what, Vince Hernandez at Aspen Comics is looking for an editor. So starting at that point, I just went to him and I showed him my samples. Now, this happened like 3 times a year for 5 years. I'd hit him up at WonderCon. I'd hit him up at Long Beach. I'd hit him up at San Diego. Every time showing him a new sample. So he knew that I was making stuff and had stuff to show him.
You turned that off.
Uh-oh.
We're good.
So then the next step. So community, having a product, going to conventions. Next step is Facebook. People do talk a lot of crap about Facebook, but guess what? You find out information right away. So I was sitting there one day on Facebook, just doing my thing. I see a post from someone I know. He was a letterer at Aspen Comics. He's like, I don't work at Aspen Comics anymore. So
Mr. Reed.
Yeah. So literally like that minute, I'm sending Vince a message. Hey, I just heard that there's an opening at Aspen Comics. So Vince had seen most recently this right here, the circle, from Action Lab Comics. I edited and lettered this book right here. So he had seen that sample most recently. So he had known that I'd done some work at a company at a similar level. So he just said, hey, come on in for the interview. And from there, I got the job. So community, networking, having a product, being on social media, knowing what's going on in the companies at the time. So a lot of steps, but that's how I got my job there. And that's how I keep doing things all the time. That's the only way to get work, is to keep pushing your product out there and to tell people that you're still making comics.
Do you, some people would, and I've seen a lot of people see this, when they find out a piece of information, they're like, oh gosh, maybe it's too soon. I mean, the guy just left. Should I do it now? People feel awkward about taking their shot in that regard. How would you respond to people who would say something like that?
That's a very valid point, but I would say just go for it, because, that's the only way you're going to get anywhere with anything, is just to jump at your opportunity when you can. Because while you're hesitating, there's someone else out there doing it. And then that person
is you.
Well, yeah. Yeah. And they're going to get the gig and you're not. So, yeah, you got to be active about it.
That checks out. That matches my findings. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to take a look at some of the work that you've done. We're going to walk through that. We're going to start with some logos. And I'm going to crack these open here. All right, so this, let's talk about this logo that you did. What was the information that you had walking into this and that led you to come to this approach to it?
So this, I didn't have anything with this except for just what it is, the concept. It was a group of 8 people pretty much. So all I was going with was pretty much the 8, and that was it. So that's what I was trying to do with this logo. So this is a very happy coincidence type of logo, where if you look at the G is like a lowercase g, also looks like an 8. So once I came upon that realization, I was just like, this is how I need to work around the logo. So I got my number 8 there in the middle, positioned it like the lowercase g, and just made sure everything else was lowercase to go around with it. The background is like just like a cityscape, like off of Google, and the splatter is also just some artistic splatter paint that I put on the side there. So all done in Illustrator.
When you talked about the cityscape that you got off of Google, do you have to make modifications for that, so you're not worried about copyright infringement and things like that? So,
yeah, that's a very, very good question, and that's why I actually brought that up there, because I didn't want anyone to think that I sat there and just like drew like a bunch of random lines back there. But yeah, you don't want to.
You could.
You could. You don't want to steal anything. You don't want to copy anything outright. My type of thing is don't use anything that's going to go into print if you're taking it off of Google. This was for a pitch project, so I felt like, it's not like something that's going to go into print, be seen. And if it would, then I would change it at that point. So it was just more like a shortcut.
Okay. Let's take a look at this second logo that you have here. 3 rocket racers.
Yeah.
Tell us about this project and how you came to this.
So this is like a Three Musketeers with rocket ships comic book. So I wanted something very sleek, very dynamic, something that had like that's going to push you in a certain direction, and also bright, kind of like a Grand Prix, the racing type of thing. So I went with really bright red, blue, and more of that. Like kind of 20s kind of deco flying kind of font style. And that's also, since you're bringing up, what to use and not to use. So this is based off of a regular font. So the everything that's the OCKET and the ACERS is based off of a regular font. But because this is used that I was planning to use for something, I went in and I've changed every single letter. Little angles here and cutting out here just to make it completely different. So I did go with something to work with from the basis, but the end product is completely different. You could put those two fonts next to each other. You'd see the origins, but you wouldn't see any similarities.
Okay.
And then the R and the 3 are completely different fonts, but go together well.
Okay. Right on. All right. So when you're approaching logo design, what is the information you would like to get? And what's the information you normally end up getting?
You mean from the client?
Yes.
Well, that can vary a lot because I do get a lot of clients that hit me up for logos. Sometimes they'll draw the logo out pretty much for me and be like, this is what I want. And for me, that's kind of cool because then I don't have to go through a whole bunch of different iterations to figure out what they're doing. So what I like to do is when someone comes up with an idea, I give them 4 to 6 choices to begin with, completely different, like not rendered out, not fully done, just like basic. Here, what do you think? Do you like 1? Do you like 4? What do you like? And then I get their feedback and then kind of put that together. They like the R in number 2. They like the S in number 5. Put that together in a new one, and we get closer to what the client's looking for. So every step we just get closer and closer and closer.
Okay. And when you're dealing with clients for logos, what are the greatest challenges you've had to overcome in that regard?
So communication is definitely a challenge for sure because, we're artists, we speak in artist terms. So when you are dealing with someone that comes from a screenwriting background or no creative background, they have a hard time communicating certain basic things. So communication is definitely the hardest thing because you don't want to start on something, spend like 2 or 3 hours on it, and then the client says, that's not what I was looking for at all. Now you've wasted like 2 or 3 hours. So communication is definitely key to getting success with working with clients for logos.
Okay. What did you have to learn to work on in yourself to be better at making that communication happen and working with clients?
Yeah, that's a trial and error. You go through the process of working with people and things don't work out and you're like, you know what, I don't want to do that again. So it is a learning process. The best thing is just being upfront right away, just getting everything communicated clearly upfront so there's not a chance for miscommunication.
Okay. Let's take a look at some cover design examples here. So this is, when I saw this just popped out. This is gorgeous work. Talk to me about how this cover came to be and what your influence was on it and what you and how you started. What was the information that went in and how did you get to this as the end product?
So this one, no information except for the book. Like I just know what the 5 pages of the pitch that this is was, and that was it. I did get a feel from the book right away that this was a TV show, and it was being pitched to some people that do media things. So when I saw this, I'm like, I see this TV show logo in my mind. So with this one, I literally saw like the intro, like the dead part coming up and then the branches being animated and kind of scrolling down your screen. And that idea came from just the word, a dead branch. What would a dead branch be? Something that, breaks or falls. So that's where that idea came from. So I just had the words on opposite angles there, and then had like a tree branch coming down from the end right there to give it that idea of that's kind of like the branch that's broken. And with graphic design, it works because that's where I can put the little number and the price for the issue. So that if the issue changes, I just change that number right there, and we keep that same design.
Like a trade dress.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous work. All right, and you got the illustration first. Did the illustration include the background, or was that?
It was completely done right there. And actually, the photography I want to mention as well too, because if you look at that looks like basic, any type of font that you could find anywhere. But I have to tell you that every single letter in there I manipulated in some way to make it work better for me for this particular logo. So it might look pretty basic as far as the font, the actual font itself, but that is all hard work that you don't see.
Okay. All right, I'll move that one out. Let's move on to this one. Sky Hunter. That's got definitely a specific, a little old school feel to it. I definitely like that. Could you talk to how this came to be?
Yeah, so that's part of the fun about designing, is getting different projects and different feels and trying to convey those feels through what you're doing in the project. So this is a pulpy, adventure 20s serial type thing, but steampunk, so it's still like in the future or in a different alternate world, but it's supposed to give you that feel of like those Indiana Jones, those old school things. So that's where I started looking at the photography and started using, fonts that look like what you would find in there. Like on top of Sky Hunter, it has Thrills in Pulp Presents. Like you would see that type of wording on any movie serial card, the title cards. So that was like a no-brainer for that. I was like, I have to do something with that because it's supposed to be an anthology series, Thrills in Pulp, and then this would be the particular issue, Sky Hunter. So it would also be a different logo underneath there every time when we would switch stuff. So the Thrills in Pulp would stay the same, and then the logo would change underneath it.
And you went with kind of a gradient on Sky Hunter and on the Raiding Pillaging Romance. What led to that kind of decision to work with that?
That was just the word sky. So I thought about blue sky and, kind of the sky would have a fade to it. I don't like really using solid colors as much as I can. I feel like with computer gradient colors, like even if you have the slightest gradient, there's really no reason to have a solid color at all for any reason.
Okay. All right, right on. Let's close this one down and let's see what's next. We're going to have a subject near and dear to my own heart, Mr. Bass Reeves. So, talk to us about this project.
So this is a little bit different than my regular cover design projects because the client, he sent me the middle drawing. He sent me the 4 small drawings, all in just black and white line art, and was like, "Hey, make me a cover." So
black and white when you got it.
Yeah,
Wow.
and in 5 pieces. So he said he wanted something like shooting, through there. So I went through, and first of all, I had my colorist, Chris Hall, who does amazing work. I had him color all the pieces, and then I laid out the actual art to make it the cover that it is. So I made the holes in there, made a separate layer for that, put all the other pieces in there behind it. So if you look at every single shot of him shooting something, you can flip those, you can rotate those, you can change those. So that's another example of just like little details that no one would ever notice, but there's 100,000 different ways you could arrange those 4 guys shooting in the back there. So I had to sit there and pick which one follows your eye the best, which one pops the most, where it's gonna end up being the best. So that was the art. So I did the layout of the art on that cover. Then there's the actual photography. The logo I did not design. That was supplied by the client. He already had his logo. Same with his company logo up there, Mursi Comics. He just wanted the Tales of Bass Reeves underneath there, the number 1, and then I added the credits also on there. So it's unusual for me to get a logo already, but he was already had this project going and had branding already set. So he's just like, help me finish this. So you can see the Tales of Bass Reeves even mimics a little bit of that pulpiness from the other book that we had there. Didn't know there'd be something so similar. Didn't realize that, but that is also goes with that feel of this book as well.
Oh, let's do something completely different then. Let's see. Inky Power. Let's see what this is about here.
So this is my my creator-owned IP right here. This I wrote, produced, edited, lettered, designed the characters, pretty much like everything. So this logo is done by Jamelin K. Park's amazing graphic designer, based off of my artwork. This logo was done at a time where I wasn't as confident in my skills as far as doing the design itself, vector-wise. So I drew it out for him and had him put it together. A lot of elements in that logo, if you just look at that logo. With the title Pink Power, I wanted something that was kind of riot, kind of, protest. So I had to get that fist in there. Also, but didn't want it to be too much, too, so I got that little heart in there as the exclamation point for the lightning bolt in there. There's also glyphs on the side right there. That's supposed to be like an alien writing. I want it to be a very loud logo. Usually for logos, I want them to be clean and simple, but this is supposed to mimic like a Japanese manga where you see like this big logo with all these different things all in the logo. So that's what I was trying to go with that right there. Then we got the little box up there, the box on the left-hand side. That's another detail that people don't think. When you're putting out comics, you got a cover. You're gonna want your company name on there. You're gonna want the issue number on there. You're gonna want the price, maybe a parental warning or a cover burst or anything else. So even just designing those little things right there is what makes your project look more professional than some of the other projects that are out there.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to look next at lettering, which is, I believe, your bread and butter. So that's where you got in at Aspen for. So let's start with this page from Fathom. Talk to us about, because a lot of people don't realize that lettering is an art. That, if you accidentally put the words over somebody getting punched in the face, then they won't see people getting punched in the face. Could you talk to us about what you do when you get a script, how you analyze, and how you look at it versus the art, and how you're gonna put things together this way?
Yeah. So
and how long that process is?
Well, so there's many steps to that right there, but as far as the where to put the balloons, that depends on the artist and like how much space they've left for the balloons. Like for example, here in this bottom panel, you can see there's like this balloon that breaks into here. That's because there's a lot of words right there. So normally you wouldn't want to do something like that, but in certain cases you don't want to cover up anything. So if I was to put like these two balloons in here, it would like cover up all this space right here or all this space right here. So you gotta kind of move things around to get it to fit there. I used to approach it from just like a panel by panel basis, like each panel I want to do the lettering here and see how it fits, but now I approach the whole page. So I'm looking at how the whole page goes. So it kind of goes across, down, back across this way, and then your eye's going to go back this way to turn the page. Exactly.
Zen. I see what you did there.
Oh, yes.
That's an entendre. I get that.
That's
I'm with you.
Right. That's right.
So we've also got a Fathom page. Talk to us. There's a difference in what you do with color and how you approach the words on that page.
Yeah, so that's the caption style for that I did not design. That was already based off of Fathom. It's a long-running book, so that's the design that they use. But that's why I wanted to point it out, is that a lot of times you see panels or captions are just like white boxes. There's no reason for it to be a white box. You can do anything with that. So this has like a little highlight around the side. It fades with a spherical grade coming from the bottom. It's got a little black outline on the outside, and you can't see it on here, but it's also partially transparent. So you can see a little bit of the artwork behind the caption box. So looks really, really, really good.
Okay. And the page after that we have over here is from Raver J.
Raver J, yes.
What is this project about here?
So that's that's about a girl who finds herself at a rave, fights against the corporate structure now. So this one was a lot of fun because this is a project that I also edited, so I had complete control over the photography and everything. So I chose a particular font that was kind of bouncy, kind of fun, but also had that regular like hardcore comic style to it, so it doesn't look like too out of place. It also has a location captions, if you can see there, where it says Club Vinyl. That has no box behind it, so it's just floating on top of the art. So sometimes when you have things like location captions, you don't need to put a box in there. You can just put the words. And then this even has like little name captions, little @ symbols with their little Twitter handles above their names. So there's fun little things you can do with a comic book with your letters, depending on how you do it.
Are those connected to actual Twitter accounts?
No, but it's just fun, you know.
When you're working, editing, and lettering a book, do you prefer to have that level of control, or do you see value in going either way from that?
Well, I like being the editor on the project as well, because when you see layouts, when people draw their comics, you can see if there's enough space for the lettering already. There was a pitch that I did last year where it was so wordy, So I knew that these bubbles were not going to fit into the boxes. So I had the artist just do a layout, got the layouts, then I did the lettering on the layout, sent it back to him, been like, look, this doesn't quite fit. And he actually redrew what the page would look like based off of how much words were on the page. So if you can't do that, then you're stuck with just having to work with what you have. Yes, you have editors. You could be like, hey, this isn't working. But if it's already been drawn, inked, colored, no one's going to go back there and redraw it, recolor, everything just because your words don't fit. So... So yeah, it's really good to be involved in other steps of the project as well.
So there's a benefit in involving the letter earlier on in the process.
For sure. It could save a lot of time. I mean, the artist could spend literally hours on a background noodling away at little details, and I could just slap a big fat balloon over all his work right there.
All right, I see in this Charismatic page, some people with this kind of flaming background here, and other people speaking in a more normal fashion. You are able to convey different voices that way. Could you talk about that decision?
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is that's different voices. Sometimes things are going to sound different, especially if you have like creatures or like monsters of some sort. That time you want to use a different font because your regular speaking font is what everybody uses. Then when you throw in a different one for a different character, then this character's speaking in a more gravelly voice or more angry or more otherworldly in some way. So this one's really cool because it's got a different color balloon, so it's black on white instead of black on white, and then there's a layer behind it of like orange flames, which makes it pop. So that's something that you get to manipulate as a letterer and have a lot of fun with. So I kind of change the little flares around the balloons as they go. It's more work, but it looks looks really good in the finished product.
I will ask on this one specifically. I know there's, and I won't name the book, but there's a big ticket book where there's a main character who speaks with black background balloons, and it's like a reddish lettering, and it's really difficult to read. I won't name it, but it's the Batman who laughs. And when you see decisions like that, how could they have done that better? How could they have made the same kind of artistic choice but approached it better?
So just with that particular example,
I think there's also a mix of upper and lower case there too.
Yeah. What you could do to just get really technical, you could put like another stroke around the red lettering, like maybe put a darker red stroke around that red, and then maybe that would pop against the black more. Or the black doesn't have to be solid black. You could knock that black down to like a 90% black or an 80% black, and then that way it wouldn't be so you wouldn't have the letters lost so much.
Yeah. So it might be too black and too strong.
Yeah.
I see where you're going. Okay. All right, we've also got
Chili and the Boneyard. Yes. Yeah. This is another pitch that I put together, edited. did the cover design, the inside front cover design, and lettering. This one in particular shows a big difference between everything else that we've seen so far. So one is this is a mixture of upper and lowercase. Comics are traditionally all uppercase. That goes back in the day when they didn't have printing options, and it had to be clear. And the only way to make it clear would be make it all uppercase. So that's where you can bring that flavor to your particular story, like I was saying before. So this is a little bit more innocent, more fun, more curious, more of like a Tim Burton vibe, So I had to reflect that in the lettering. So I chose a font that was a mixed case. I also chose to make the bubbles. They are not white. They are like they're like an off-white grayish color that kind of blends more in with the page. Because what happens is that on a dark page like this, when it's white, those white bubbles, it's really a lot of contrast. And there's no reason for that. Because again, we're in a digital age where we can have slight different variants of color. So it's very light gray and no stroke on the balloon, I believe.
Okay. All right, and then the last lettering selection we have here is from Bubblegum. Oh, wait.
So this, again, I did not design the captions. When I came to Aspen, a lot of the books already had caption styles. So, but I did want to show this to people just because this is an example of some of the best captions I've ever seen. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to show what's going on. It's like a neon caption. It's not even straight lines. There's like little curves to it. If you look at the green one up above, there's like these arrows on the side right there. So it really gives the feel of this, this futuristic neon world just from the captions, So if you want to do nice captions, do that.
All right. Let's kind of flat there. We got some Portal Bound and Siria. Oh, I know about Siria.
So Portal Bound also needed a different approach to it as well. So if you look at those captions, that is like some crazy line work going on there. But we need something different for every book. So that is what makes this one stand out. With the case of this book, if you look at the captions shape is the same through different pages, but depending on who's talking, the color of that caption changes. So that's another thing that's a cool way to control how your story is by making these cool captions, but changing them for each character. So each character has a slightly different look to them.
All right, we looked at front cover. I'm going to bounce through.
One thing to mention on Siria. That's the one thing here, is that if you look at that first panel, and if you look at that tail, and look at the third panel, look at that tail, very unusual. So I was asked to have unusual tails. So this is what I came up with. The client gave me samples of some books that they liked that had different tail styles, and I came up with something different. That was challenging for sure, because you're so used to just having a regular tail that just points at somebody's mouth. When you have something that has a different shape to it, it's not going to have the same kind of flow. So I just wanted to show that we don't always have to do the same thing. You can switch it up.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a look at some inside front covers.
So inside front covers is something that nobody barely ever thinks about. Like they just, I don't know how many times I've opened up a comic at a convention and literally the inside front cover is white or black. Yeah. And for me, that's such a waste of space. I hate to be so just dramatic about it, but it's like, here's your chance to make another impression. Your cover is a first impression, and then you open up your cover and you see an inside front cover with some great design on it. That definitely helps the feel for your story.
Now, the inside front cover should convey information, absolutely. There's certain relevant information that it has to have, but you're saying if you apply some style to it, you can communicate more about the book, more about the tone.
Absolutely. All of that, because this first one right here on the left, that's from Julia and the Boneyard. So when you saw the front cover, there was like a graveyard in the background. You turn the page, and now there's a big gravestone on it. Perfect opportunity to put some words on it, because gravestones have words. So that's where I was just like, this is where all the inside front cover information is going to go. So the artwork is actually a photo manipulated from the cover. So I worked with the artist. The artist sent me the Photoshop file of the cover, and I switched some layers out, redrew some pieces, changed some colors to make it a completely different piece of art. But I didn't draw a single thing on there, just Photoshopped it all. So you can use what you have from the project with the artist and make something, a new page of art basically, that they didn't even draw.
Okay. And on Contagion, because this is a very specific kind of a dour mood, but set in space. Could you talk about how you came to that realization?
So that was based off of the story. So again, the story I wanted it to look, sci-fi and like outer space. So the the logo it's not a logo. It's more like just the title, I guess. That is a font that I found that just has that kind of look to it, and then the font for the regular words has this kind of hatchy look to it as well. The coolest thing that I like about this is that this space station over here, this was in the book, like in like page 10 or whatever, one of the panels, and it was flipped over the other way, and I just saw it in there. And I'm like, you know what? I like that. So I took that panel out of the comic, flipped it, cropped it, brought it down, stretched out the space behind it, and made it this page. And also just a little thing like this little, you can't see here, but there's a little spaceship coming up. So he's like kind of coming in. So it's almost like a story beat. Your first story beat from the comic. You see the little spaceship coming in to land, and then the comic starts on the next page.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And there's a very sparse one over here though. You've got 4. You got branches.
Yeah.
Which follows the kind of spare cover that you put on there.
Exactly. So that's another reason why I wanted this one up here, is that it doesn't have to be super flashy as well. It could be just as simple as just some white letters on there, but it works, right? I mean, it's like so simple. There's not much to it at all. So I just want to show some contrast from like the really flashy, like things like the Red Rocket Racers logo, to something just like this, which is just white type. But again, the decision of what font to use, what size to use, where is it going to be on the page, all comes into effect. But yeah, really good results with very little information on the page.
And on both, you have certain legal things that you have to put at the bottom. Could you talk about how that challenge is sometimes answered?
So this is called indicia. Indicia. A lot of people don't even know what that is, which is kind of cool. So for people watching, if you're making comics, like, you should know what that is, because it's the little detail that just shows. It's just the legal copyright information. It says the issue title, the number, the month, the year, the copyright information. Then it also usually has a statement of some sort saying that, the likenesses in this book are our own creation, are not supposed to be reflected of anybody else, just in case there's any legal issues right there. And might want to put printed in the USA or printed on recycled paper, anything that you might want to put in there. There's an opportunity to put some more information in there. But that's what you need right there for copyright information, because even if it's not copyrighted and it says copyright and it's printed, it looks like it is.
All right, we got coming up here. The Sky Hunter. So you carried that mood through here.
Yeah, so had to have that paper. The cut paper was on the front cover. So again, I'm kind of incorporating an element from the cover into the inside front cover, and I just wanted it to look like the credit reel on those old movies. So I had to use that deco lettering for the words for the names. And then it also had a subtitle. So I took the Thrills and Pulp and the Sky Hunter from the cover, added chapter 1, and added the title rating on the Roaring Rapids on there. So that's also another decision I had to make. How am I going to make that a seamless piece of design when you already have Thrills and Pulp and Sky Hunter on there already? You don't want to have too many fonts on one page. If I started doing everything in a different font, it's going to start looking really, really busy. So that's why I chose on purpose to copy the Thrills and Pulp, do chapter 1 the same way, and then use the same color for the rating on the Roaring Rapids.
I love that alliteration.
Yeah.
All right, coming up next, we're going to look at some back covers, I believe.
So back covers is another thing too that people don't consider. Especially if you're printing your own book and you're doing like independent comics, you can put whatever you want on the back cover. It doesn't have to be, it can be anything you want. So you definitely want to do some back covers. So this is the back cover for Bass Reeves. This was the second issue. The client just told me, he gave me this piece of art here, and he said, I want this piece of art on the back, and these are the words I want on the back. So he told me about the saga begins, his little excerpt right there, and then the little like tagline, saddle up. So with that, I actually had to, if you remember the cover with the 4 guys shooting through, it had the same color design in the background. So I actually contacted the colorist and said, hey, can you drop everything off of the cover and just send me the background? So this is the exact same background scale from the cover, just with no manipulation. And I dropped that in for the back cover, so the front and back cover will have the same grade when you flip it on both sides. Mm-hmm. And then I put the guy on there, which was a little difficult also because if you can see, the image is not perfectly symmetrical, so it's kind of hard to get that to balance when you have an asymmetrical image. Mm-hmm. And then we got 2 different font styles on the top. The top is more the story style, and then the font style for the tagline is more like on the back of the book. You always see in clear lettering, clear letters, something that gets you to engage with the book. So there's 2 different font styles, and I added that sun up there too.
So you drew this. I was curious about that.
Yeah.
You drew the sun
yeah.
yourself?
Yeah.
Was that time? I mean, you what tools did you use?
I was just Illustrator, and it was really, really simple because it's just a circle basically. It's just a circle and some radiation coming out.
All right. The circle. This is for production work. Because there's a whole workflow to get comics from an idea in somebody's head to something you can actually buy. Could you talk about how this work that you did plays into that?
Yeah. So, I mean, here it is right here. You can see that this is the book. There's a back cover, and there's a spine right there. So this image right here is basically just like this, spread out. So it has the front cover, the back cover, and the spine on there. So that's another step that people don't realize when you're making books, that got to make a spine if it's gonna be on the bookshelf. So for this one, this is the book that I edited. So I chose to use the variant cover for the first issue as the cover, so we would have something different than the regular issue when you saw it on the stands. And then the back cover, that was also an image that I chose. That was a variant cover for the 4th issue. So that was just a very, very striking image. So I'm just like, we need to put that image there. So when you flip the book over, it's kind of ominous, like, oh, there's something dark going on in here.
So there's a lot of work of curation of, kind of almost like a DJ going through and sampling and figuring, oh, we got to use this and mix that in that way.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good analogy because a lot of that is just mixing a little bit of here, a little bit of there, using reworked parts, adding just a little bit of new when you need to fill in the gaps. And yeah, this is also very basic, simple parts. We just have the logo, the credits, and then on the back we have the blurb, and then we got the reviews, and then the pricing information right there. So that's another thing, reviews. If you have a book that got some decent reviews or taglines or quotes you want to pull out there, you would want to put them on the back there to help people want to purchase the book. So luckily this book got some good feedback. So when the trade came out, I had to go through a bunch of reviews, just pick out some nice ones. Sorry, Jason, yours didn't get up on there. Yeah, definitely, since I was editing the project.
Okay. All right, cool. So we're going to move on to questions and answers. If people have questions about this, because there's a lot of different types of work involved in what you do to make comics actually happen. Oh, you want to go full Phil Donahue? Yeah, come on. So.
Oh shoot, are we gonna get like that?
Oh,
all right.
Yeah, we if Mike Young is in the house, we're gonna do something professional.
All right.
So Mike Young from NERDSoul helping us out here with this. Do we have any questions for Zen about the work done here in lettering and graphic design and logo design and production and so on and so forth? We have a question back there. Mike's gonna come back and Phil Donahue run you that microphone.
What would you say standard average time just doing logo design?
Okay, that is, I'd say like maybe like 8 to 20 hours. If it's something that you want to go to print, like something that you're really seriously working on. I mean, you can make a logo in 5 minutes. I mean, that can happen. But when you're doing what I'm trying to do, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want any copyright issues. I want everything to be original to me. So I'm definitely spending a lot of time researching, trying to find out what I want it to look like, and making it look completely original.
Cool. Any other questions? Because I could ask some questions. I have my own curiosities as well. So when you're the tools of the trade that you use, you have the standard Adobe suite, I would presume. Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator. Do you use an external tablet for any drawing that you have to do, or do you do that using a mouse?
I use my mouse. I do have an external pen that I use, but it's
What
just.
type?
Oh man! Now he caught me on
Tools of
camera, not
trade.
knowing which one it was. It was a gift. Thank you, Todd. That's why I don't know what brand it is. But you know what? I only break it out on specific circumstances. But most of the time, it's always the mouse and Illustrator. Always.
Because it's vector based, so it's scalable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Photoshop I only use like if I'm just working on like changing an image size or changing some colors on something.
Okay. Given, I'm presuming you're on Creative Cloud, or do you have one of the older versions that don't make you pay every month?
Yeah, I got the older version. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's an impediment for a lot of people.
Yes.
Even with if you're a student at places like Cal State LA, you get student discount, but it's still a monthly hit. So.
But I'll probably be joining those ranks pretty soon.
They have put some irresistible tools in the newer version. That is, because I'm on Adobe Photoshop CS3. Okay. That's how far back I go.
Yeah.
But I ain't gotta pay for it every month. I also can't upgrade my operating system because it'll stop working. But it's what we do. So okay. So do we have yes, sir?
You made the comment. Both of you made a comment about kind of like mixing, putting things together, kind of like a DJ. Are there any DJs or producers that you would liken yourself to due to how they maybe mix songs or make records?
That's a deep question. I like
Wow.
that.
I'll start mine off because since I do graphic design, and Dilla is mine.
Okay.
Dilla is mine. Like, he's my inspirational fire. I'm like, I'm about to chop this up, this video, this flyer, this magazine, whatever I'm working on, I'm about to chop this up. But what would you liken yourself to?
Man, this is my opportunity to sound so cool, but I'm just gonna go with something old school like Rick Rubin, somebody who is gonna get the best out of you no matter what we have to do to get there. Might not be your friend sometimes, but you know what? The work we're gonna get at the end is gonna be worth it, and we're both gonna be happy about it in the end.
Okay. I only had to put things together for this panel. I used to do graphic design a lot more. I don't anymore, but I was pre-Heartbreaks and 808s Kanye. like the original. I missed the old Kanye, so that would be me. Because in my mind he died after that album. But anyway.
I'll give him up to my Twisted. I'll give him up
Pass.
I'll give him up to that.
Pass.
My Twisted was...
Pass. Moving on. So, it's my panel.
Yeah.
Any other questions about graphic design, about logo design, about production, because there are a lot of people who want to be stars in comics, but there are a lot more people who make comics actually happen. And those people don't come and go as quickly as, the kind of star turns. They have more reliable financial opportunities available to them. You've been with Aspen for a while now.
Yeah, it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's actually something I would want to comment on too, is that, I got in making Pink Power. I wanted to make that comic. That's what I wanted to do. But I went to shows and exhibited and advertised and did all this kind of stuff and sold comics, but only got to this place, I wasn't, to be real, I wasn't making money, it's like it wasn't and it's not like it's about money, but it's like if I'm going to spend all this time, I would like to get something back. So that's really where all the production stuff came from. I came in wanting to be a writer, and I ended up doing lettering and then editing and then production. I'm like, you know what? I like making comics. So it doesn't have to be my comic. I'll have just as much fun working on your comic or your comic or your comic. So now I just do services for other people. So I'm making comics every day, but only 1% of the time it's mine. You know?
But you are still working on your own stuff.
Oh yeah, I got a pitch that I'm working on right now.
Okay.
That's I wish I could talk about, but it's very
Don't talk
exciting.
about your pitches,
Yeah,
don't
very exciting. Yeah.
All right, and to testify, I brought him up here because he's currently lettering a book called Project Wildfire, Smoke on the Water, which is a weekly webcomic that we do on operative.net every Wednesday for free. And
Check it out.
His lettering is breathtaking. It elevates the work so drastically beyond, me trying to figure out. I'm like, how do tails work? What am I doing? So it's important to, sometimes you have to leave things up to a professional. And it changes, it has drastically changed the quality of the work, and I appreciate that. So that's why I brought it. So,
Thank you.
we have any more questions before we close down? Because I know Rick Baker's about to get an award in the other room. So,
Questions?
all right, thank you so much for joining us. This is EagleCon, this is Zen. Please look for him at highconmedia.com
Yep.
or on Twitter and Instagram as highconmedia, right?
Yep, at HighCon Media.
And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you everyone for showing up. Appreciate it.
Underrated.